It's time once again for another episode of Georgia Business Radio. Broadcasting live from the Pro Business Channel studios in Atlanta. And now here's your host, Rich Casanova.
All right, Rich Casanova here for another live episode of the Georgia Business Radio. And actually, this is a special spotlight episode. PBC is saluting our veterans on Veterans Day, and as a tribute and a thank you for their service. And we have two gentlemen in here that have not only have a quite a background in military and in their service of our country, but also we wanted to talk about nonprofits and how they're helping veterans specifically. So let's jump right into it. And we have Joe Messere joining us in the studio from Team Rubicon USA. Welcome back, actually. You've been in our studio a few times.
Yeah, a couple of times. Thanks for having me again. Appreciate it.
And now you're at our pop-up studio, yeah.
Yep, following you guys around town.
Yeah, so we're on site across town, just up the road from our studio here at Serendipity Lab. So excited for their support and our partnership with them. So, Joe, before we introduce our next guest, give us I'll mention, you fill in any blanks here. So, as I know from Team Rubicon, it's a nonprofit, executive veteran. You're an also entrepreneur. You've done in the past. You're making a difference in people's lives every day through disaster response and veteran reintegration.
Yeah. So right now I work with Team Rubicon. It's a national nonprofit that does disaster response. We put veterans back into the community through doing good work after a storm. Before that, I started my own company. I worked for the Navy Reserve for 10 years as a Navy Reserve officer. 2 tours in Afghanistan. Kind of bounced around, had some worked for an oil company and did a few other things, several other nonprofits in between.
Go Navy. Can you sing the song or whatever?
I mean, I can, but I'm getting over a cold. I don't think anybody wants me to.
Oh, nice. Good save there. Yeah. All right. Also joining us in the studio is Brian Smith. He wears a couple different hats. So his day job, if you will, well, actually 27 years you mentioned in the insurance industry, right?
That's right.
And currently at the Insurance Offices of America.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Where are they based out of?
We're based out of Longwood, Florida.
Okay.
And we have a large office right here in Atlanta.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we jump into your mission, which is, again, obviously in the space for veterans, the VEO, which is the Veterans Empowerment Organization. Tell us a little bit about your background, your military service or otherwise, yeah.
Sure. I enlisted back in 1985 and then went back to college and commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Ordnance Corps with the Army. And then as a captain, I went into the Chemical Corps. And so I served for 14 years, both active and reserve status, and got out in 1999.
Oh, wow. Well, obviously, gentlemen, I'm sure myself, Nick here is our engineer in the studio, as well as all of our listeners. Thank you for your service. And I wanted to introduce also our engineer. Nick, what's happening today?
Just voted, so
nice.
It kind of all makes sense that we're doing this today.
It is on Election Day on top of that, right?
Yeah. It's a big day.
All the stars aligning. All right, so let's jump into it. So, guys, we're going to do, as we mentioned, more of a panel format here. But let's start with Joe. So now with Team Rubicon, how long have you been there?
I've been there almost 3 years now.
Okay. And you cover virtually the whole Southeast, all 8 states here in the Southeast?
Yep. I'm the Deputy Director of Region Operations for the Southeast region. So I run everything from Kentucky to Miami.
Okay. Nice. South Beach.
Yep.
So talk to us about a recent disaster that you guys were able to step in on, and just kind of tell us a story of how you guys engage and what the response is.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, this is...
that could take a minute, yeah.
2018 hurricane
Right.
season for anybody that's not tuned into a radio or television or the internet.
Right.
We had quite a big hurricane season. So right now we are still responding. We've been responding for almost 6 weeks now since Hurricane Florence started. We're responding to Hurricane Florence in North Carolina and to Hurricane Michael in Florida.
Okay.
And in the last 5 or 6 weeks, we've deployed over 1,000 volunteers.
Wow.
Yeah, a ton of that volunteer makeup. It's usually about 70% veteran, 30% first responder, civilian, family member. And we've been there, kind of for the long run. We'll send people out for a week at a time and do what we can to put the community back together as much as we can.
And I should rewind for a second because we've known each other for a while, so I do know a little bit more about Team Rubicon than somebody that's not heard about it. Rewind for a second. Talk to us how it originally came about, the backstory.
Yeah, so 8 years ago, the earthquake in Haiti. I have hurricanes on my brain these days. The earthquake in Haiti that happened in 2010. Our co-founders, met up with a couple of folks in an airport on the way to Haiti. There's a whole bunch of people that just packed bags full of all the medical equipment they could carry. Went as close to Haiti as they could get because remember, you can't fly in there. Everything was shut down. And they met up with a bunch of firefighters and veterans and doctors, all at a baggage claim. And they kind of looked at each other. They looked at each other across the baggage claim and went, "You look like you're going to Haiti. You look like you're going to Haiti." Right, yeah. And then they all kind of connected. The co-founders of Team Rubicon had connected with a Jesuit priest that was in country. And worked through the State Department to make sure that they had visas and stuff to enter the country. And what they did is they actually got in the back of a truck and drove over the mountain, over the border into Haiti. And they started setting up field aid stations everywhere they could find a concentration of people that needed medical support. And they worked their way down the mountain towards Port-au-Prince and the general hospital there. And then when they got there, they kind of took that over for a day or two as well until more doctors were able to get flown in. So after that, they were there for a couple of weeks. They came home, kind of thought, well, gee, we should do this some more.
Right.
And then so a few months later, there's another big, disaster, and then more Oklahoma, and big tornadoes there. And then after a little while, they kind of realized, well, this can be a thing, and this can be a thing domestically. Like it's not just international aid that needs to happen. So we built a big domestic response framework here in the country because of that, because we realized that we got a ton of veterans that want to give back, and they've got a lot of skill that's not really easy to use at Walmart or
right.
Like in
on
town.
Pro Business Channel, yeah,
or on Pro Business Channel, and some of them directly correlate to what you could do in the business world, but some of the stuff, thinking on your feet, working in austere environments, being used to kind of devastation and stuff.
Reacting in that environment. And it's very different than, the average civilian would be a lost, right, without some training. But it's interesting how it's brought on civilians. We want to come back in a second and talk about, what's happening currently. But it's just amazing. A couple of guys really just went down there with no, master plan, so to speak, right? So hold that thought for a second. So Brian, tell us the backstory of the Veterans Empowerment Organization.
The VEO was founded several years ago under the auspices of trying to help homeless veterans, and it was based upon this group of people that were in and around Atlanta that found themselves homeless, and it was a continued story of a lot of people that come back either from military service or they could find themselves into drugs and alcohol issues. It could be a psychological issue. And Franz Fortune, the executive director of the Veterans Empowerment Organization, saw this and said, we've got to do something here. And what was amazing was, wasn't a new concept, but people automatically believe that the Veterans Administration steps in to help right away. Well, if somebody doesn't have a valid identification card, or if they've got issues with knowing who they are, what some of the other matters are, the VA, they may take their information, but if they don't come back, nothing happens. There's nobody to hold their hand.
Right, yeah.
VEO steps in and does that. They actually provide counseling. They provide a place to lay your head. They provide meals. Yeah. And so they do this all on donations that come from the United Way and a variety of other corporate sponsors that we have, and through fundraising efforts that we do in and around the Atlanta area.
So, again, when did they start? When were they established, I guess?
Started like 10 years ago.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And what's your role there?
I'm one of the board members. Joined the board of directors almost 2 years ago. We've been able to work on a variety of issues that support the VEO, not only from a fundraising perspective, but also from an organizational direction. And we've got several members that are also veterans on the board, or certainly have veteran connections, and that they're making a difference every day.
Nick, do you got a question here for these guys? Looks like you're writing some pretty serious notes over there. Yeah,
That's what I do.
that's what he does. Yeah,
yeah. Brian, just wanted to know how exactly is the VEO funded?
Well, like I said before, it's funded through a couple of different avenues. One, the United Way funds quite a bit, and they provide a regular annual donation to the VEO. We also have a lot of support from businesses that are in and around the Atlanta area, actually across the state of Georgia, large businesses, and we have private donations as well. And we raise a lot of our funds from a gala that we have in February of every year. And we're coming up on I believe it's the 4th annual gala this year. It's going to be at the Georgia Aquarium. So we have it at a couple of really nice venues around the Atlanta area, and we continue to grow in attendance every year.
and you have an event coming up that you do annually as well, right?
That is correct. We do what we call a VEO pre-gala mixer.
Okay.
It's a social event that's complimentary to anyone that wants to attend that has an interest in veteran affairs.
Okay.
And to learn more about the organization, have a chance to talk with other people that are like-minded as veteran supporters, just to talk, share stories, meet new friends, and really it's just a chance to learn a little bit about the VEO without it being an environment where we're asking for any donations. It's really just a way to share our time with people so they know who we are.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Joe, how is Team Rubicon funded?
We're funded the same way. We have some major funders in communities that we operate in. We have major national funders, but a lot actually comes from individual donations. We run a donation drive every time there's a big name storm that shows up on the media. A $10 a month donor is actually going to help us to understand how much we can reliably count on, pretty regularly. And I'll mention this too. A lot of people out there listening, if you listen to NPR, you hear the donor drives there and, things like that. But the way nonprofits are funded and operate fiscally is program changes are funded by major foundations and major gifts, right? So let's say I've got a spare $1 million. If I'm going to buy a fleet of trucks, that's going to come from a spare $1 million. But my day-to-day funding, my regular run-of-the-mill business is always, always, always run by $10 a month donations. So the value of your grandmother's extra $10 getting put in an envelope is incredible because that's the actual 80% of your normal
that's
operating fund. And I say 80%, that's a completely made up number, but so I don't want.
Well, you know what they say about statistics.
Yeah.
What is it? 37.8% of all statistics are made up on the spot.
Completely made up on the spot. But so for
Brian liked that one, yeah.
For the layperson though, everyone thinks, well, I wish I had the extra $100 a year or whatever, but you do, and if you can, set it aside, any organization that you support is going to be run literally completely off of you. So we have a saying in Team Rubicon that your mother's a donor. Right. And it started because our biggest donor was the CEO's mom in the first couple of years. And so we actually spend money based on that theory of, is my mom going to yell at me if I buy this? Or is my mom going to yell at me if I don't spend money on this and create a new program that's really good?
What will your mom think or whatever, right? Yeah. So we want to we're about midpoint. We got a lot of other questions here in our next segment. But before we forget, each of y'all give out your call to action, your website, how people can get involved. Like you said, donate. Because I know, Joe, on the site, we did a campaign for a Pro Business Channel, and it's really easy to set up for companies, organizations, individuals, teams, right? Mm-hmm. They just go there, and it's all run through a platform. And so talk about that. And again, kind of call to action, your website and all that good stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so if you go to teamrubiconusa.org, that's Rubicon like the river, teamrubiconusa.org, in the top right corner, you can click donate or sign up, and it's the best call to action ever. It's really easy. Yeah. If you click donate, you can either donate once for a big thing, or you can set up a regular donation. You can set up a fundraiser like you guys did, where you say, hey, this hurricane season, I'm going to get all my friends to raise $1,000 total, and we're going to make sure that these guys are fed for another week or something like that. Yeah. And then right next to that's the button to sign up and volunteer, and there's step-by-step instructions to get out from there. And it's not just for veterans, it's for anybody. The mixture of veterans and civilians and first responders is really important to the integration part. And everybody has value helping out in the field.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no particular skill set that makes you better or worse at picking up pieces of a community that are thrown all over the world.
And Brian?
We've got our site. It's called veohero.org, and you can go to the upper right-hand corner as well, and it'll say Give Now. We always love to hear people's stories. You can sign up for newsletters and whatnot from the website, find out about the events that are coming up, find out ways you can contribute in your support of veteran homelessness here in the Atlanta area. And we've got the same thing. We've got a variety of companies that have a veteran outreach program that allows them to come in, volunteer at the center, help out with meals, help out with events, and just engage. And we have a constant flow of organizations coming through the VEO campus that are just offering assistance. And it just shows the veterans that are there that there is a lot of support. There's an interest, because veteran homelessness cuts across so many different areas. And we just happen to be focused on the Atlanta area, but it is a model that can be replicated throughout the country. And it's through the support of the organizations I've mentioned before, the United Way. We've got the Gary Rollins Foundation as well, that huge supporter of the VEO. UPS, FedEx, we've got some large organizations that are really backing this group for the betterment of our veterans, who once something happens and they lose their sense of self-support, it can continue to degrade. And VEO allows individuals to have a life that is based on self-sufficiency. It gives them the pride, and they do that through a variety of ways. And so by checking out the veohero.org website, you can gain additional information on exactly what we do and how you can help.
And that's what's, I guess, unique about each of y'all. So with Team Rubicon, that's nationally, and you also do some projects overseas as well still? Or Okay.
Yeah. Oh, man, we just launched a medical team to the Marianas Islands a couple of days ago. So they've been on the ground. They've seen over 100 patients in the last 48 hours, 17 medical providers and support personnel. They flew to Guam and then picked up a military aircraft from Guam to Tinian. And they're working on Tinian and I think Saipan. And what they're doing is they're going out to the community just like they did in Haiti.
Right.
And they're going out and so let me back up. Super Typhoon U2, if you guys didn't hear about it, just decimated the Marianas Islands, Guam, Saipan, and the Philippines. And within hours of it passing, we were in touch with the mayor in Tinian and with the government there, and we flew people as fast as we could. We have a World Health Organization certified emergency medical team, an EMT1 level organization. Wow. Yeah, we're the first nonprofit in North America that's completely unsupported by the government to have the EMT certification from the World Health Organization.
That's amazing.
So,
it is, right?
Yeah,
That's incredible.
Yeah, let me just drop that one.
Hey, you should have started with that. Yeah. Are you on social media at all? Like, do you promote what you guys are doing at Rubicon on social media? Yeah,
so we have if we're on Facebook and Twitter, our national account, our territories actually have their own Twitter and Facebook accounts as well to reach out locally. And we're on YouTube. We got a great YouTube channel, and we've even got some stuff on Vimeo. But if you go to the social media websites, we've got great stories of people's lives getting turned around, being able to give back. We've got really good stories about some of the work that we've done and why we do it. And it's all right out there. I mean, you can hit the Googleverse with Team Rubicon, and you'll get days of a rabbit hole back to it.
Yeah, I would warn our listeners when you be careful when you're watching the videos, because you will get chills, and it's pretty emotional. Many of those. It's just awe-inspiring what you guys are doing. So Brian, talk to us about your footprint. So it's Atlanta-based, right?
That's right.
Give us some numbers. I'm going to ask both of you guys to give us some numbers in terms of, what's the team organization, the support look like internally, the structure of the organization, then how many people, y'all serve, or, what are some of your goals in that sense?
Well, that's a really good question. We've got about 50 people that work at the organization. We got about 50 people working at the organization, from a variety of counselors to case managers and also administration. And then we serve nearly 100 homeless veterans in our center. And over the years, we've served hundreds of homeless veterans, and the impact is significant. There's so many different things other than just the housing component, not to mention the kitchen that we have, and we're building a new building now that is intended to even make the facilities that much more valuable and accessible, because they provide these veterans a variety of services that go beyond just having a place to stay. One of them happens to be case management. If they don't have their ID, they help them get an identification so they can prove who they are.
Right? Because you're lost. I mean, you just can't function in our society, right?
Think about it. You're homeless.
Right.
Who knows under what circumstance? And the VA cannot get engaged unless they've got the right information to get you in their system. The VEO, through their case management and their care overall on helping this person get through the system, I think that's one of the most valuable aspects of what the VEO is able to promote. And they also have life skills training that they provide these veterans that for whatever reason there's a gap in their life. They help them find employment. They don't let them just stay there all day long. They're required to go out and look for work on a daily basis. They cannot just lay around and stay in their housing facilities. They've got to get out and do that. There's also counseling and a referral system for those that may have drug and alcohol issues, and also psychological matters that need to be dealt with. And then they follow up. They make sure that the person's in good shape, so that when they do connect them with the VA and their benefits, that they're able to make sure that they were able to put a bow on the package, so to speak, and make sure nothing really fell through the cracks.
So I want to take a second to really brag on the VEO, and this is a story that Brian doesn't know that I have. But you're going to love it. So I was at a meeting at the VEO campus. We were in their boardroom space, and I came out and I looked at my truck, and somebody walked into the room and said, "By the way, who owns the silver pickup truck out in the parking lot?" And I said, "Me." So I walk out and I look at it, and there's a little bump. There's a little dent in it. And one of the guys that is in residence there had backed his car into it just ever so slightly. And I said, "Well, man, I mean, Here I am thinking, well, that's no problem. My little brother's a mechanic. I'll have it popped out." Tyler Bowser pulls me aside and he says, "Look, let me explain how this works here. Okay, this guy has a job. He works down the street at an auto shop. And able to get there, we got him a place where he could buy a car, right, for cheap, for something he could afford to get just as far as he has to go for his daily life today, and he can work his way up from there. But also, to be able to have that car and park it here, we require him to have insurance to be responsible for everything that he does. So in order to do that, we made sure that he had somewhere he could get insurance that's very affordable for him and covers what he needs." And he says, "You need to make sure that you claim this." So I go outside, and that gentleman was standing there. He was a Vietnam vet. Wonderful dude. I actually stood in the parking lot all afternoon talking to him about cars. He had everything. He had his whole. I mean, he was more squared away than. I mean, I've gotten in more fender benders in Atlanta than when I lived in New York City. Okay, and he was more squared away than any other person that I've ever had to deal with, and it's because they systematically and programmatically make sure that everything they do is 100% supportive of that veteran and their self-sufficiency, and it's just incredible the depth that they go to do that.
And here's the interesting aspect of that. First of all, thank you for sharing that story. That just ties in perfectly with what we were trying to get across here, that here you've got these individuals, these veterans that were a variety of ranks. There's no line that says, you know, if you're an officer, you're enlisted, what your job was, it doesn't matter. If something happens, you have an exposure. And the irony is that these people are based upon a very disciplined structure in life. And so the VEO is so supportive of creating that life skill, giving them back that sense of pride from being self-sufficient. And that's a perfect example of how a direct impact was made from an indirect act.
Yeah.
So it's critical. Mm-hmm.
All right, you're listening to Georgia Business Radio. Rich Casanova here, your host, alongside Nick Rodriguez, our engineer. And this is our Veterans Day special salute to those organizations, those individuals that are making a difference for those that have served us and our country. And just really fascinated with these the mission that you guys are on, the stories that you shared. How much time we got left? About 5-10 minutes here?
About 5 minutes.
Okay,
yeah.
so we're going to do a rapid fire series here for both of y'all. You can pass or play on all the questions, right? So,
oh boy, what do we got here?
Fire. We don't
what are we getting
we
into?
don't do gotcha questions. Yeah. Okay, so talk to us about. Well, I want to rewind for a second. You're talking about one of the challenges. Correct me if I'm wrong. Of a homeless veteran is it's more hopelessness they feel, right?
That's right.
Right? So it's not the roof over their head necessarily. I mean, that's huge, right? Mm-hmm. You guys provide that. But even with that roof, they're just discombobulated is a nice way of saying that, right?
It is.
I mean, I can't even really appreciate being on the other side of the table. I've never served in the military. Two of my brothers have, right? But not to the degree that, the guys that you're working with. Mm-hmm. And it's something where we do have these government agencies, but sometimes it takes these nonprofits, these people that have been there, done that, to really step up and relate to them, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, the government does some amazing things, but they just can't do on the granular level.
That's right. That's right.
So that filled up. Now we'll run into the wrap. But I heard about an organization. I don't know if you're familiar with these, but when you're homeless, you're so disconnected. There was a nonprofit I heard about or a company that was saying they were donating cell phones, mm-hmm. to the homeless because without a phone number, family can't reach you, right? You don't have an address, so at least you can hit 911. I mean, that was pretty powerful concept or idea that we want to explore a little bit later. But so we talked about how you guys raise donations. Let's talk about your volunteers. Besides people contributing money, what are some opportunities they can step up, or give us some examples of some people that have volunteered?
Oh man, I got to tell you, this is my favorite part of the show. I love bragging on my volunteers.
So they make up everything. That's what this whole thing's about.
100%, right?
So I'm gonna let's do some math.
All right.
So there's 90,000+ volunteers in Team Rubicon, and the last time we talked,
it was like 70.
It was 75,000.
Wow!
Right, and then 6 months before that, it was 60,000. So
it started with 2.
And it started with 10.
Okay,
it
10.
started
They
with
went down
10.
to Haiti.
So yeah, we're growing really fast.
Wow.
90,000 volunteers, but let me tell you. So for a international aid organization and a domestic response organization, we have 120 full-time employees. That's it.
120 versus almost 100,000 volunteers.
Yeah.
Wow.
So in the Southeast, we have one employee.
And that's you.
And that's me.
The dude. You're the dude.
Right?
He's the dude.
He's the man.
So my whole job is empowering my volunteer leaders. So in our region in the Southeast, we've got 120 volunteer leaders. Every one of my leaders, if they're a city coordinator, if they're a planning team member, if they're recon team members, if they're instructors in all of our stuff that we teach, everybody, my region logistics manager, my finance manager, these guys are all volunteers. We're an entirely volunteer-led organization. So 90,000 volunteers, about 12,000 of those, I think. I may be a little bit off there. There's a ton of volunteer leaders total, wow. Right? Well, let me say 1,500. 12,000 was, I think, is our active deployable number.
A lot of numbers.
No. 12,000 is our active deployable number that's deployed in the last year or so, and we've had 1,000 on the ground in the last month. But let me tell you this: so the operations that we have ongoing right now, in addition to our business being run, the operations, we've got one contract staff member on our incident management team, 1 or 2 per site. All of the rest of the command staff, everybody that's planning and running every response, is a volunteer, and they switch out every week. It's insane.
So for somebody that, beyond donating, like I said, they want to step up and actually help, and boots on the ground, so to speak, give us a quick 17-second snapshot, a day in the life of a Team Rubicon volunteer on site? What does that look like?
Yeah, so you show up to, you'll get dispatch instructions once you sign up and go through the mobilization process. You'll get dispatch instructions. It'll have a POC's phone and name, and you'll show up to this place. And when you show up, there's going to be a small army of people in these cool gray T-shirts with everybody's name on the front of it.
Yeah, I've seen those.
And they're going to say, hey, grab, a hot meal, bed down. First thing in the morning, we're going to have a brief in the morning, and then we're going to go out, right? So 7 a.m., you're going to have a morning brief. They're going to give you, this is what we're doing for the day. This is what strike team you're on. Here's your team leader. We're going to rally back here for chow at this time. Here's your safety gear. Go out and do great in the world. You're going to go out in the field, and on day one, totally unskilled, you're probably going to be swamping for the Sawyer team, pulling logs that they're cutting up if there's trees all over the place. You'll be mucking out someone's house. You'll be ripping their walls out if they're affected by flooding.
Yeah.
Anything that gets wet inside, we're gonna cut it to a certain standard height and then rip it all out, so it saves everybody money in their recovery process.
And that's one of your biggest value propositions, right? So you basically clear the site, the whole scene, so that it's easier for contractors to come back and rebuild it.
Yeah,
right?
so we can't rebuild your house entirely,
right.
And in some cases we do. We have very limited pilot programs to do that. But what we're going to do is we're going to find the community. Hurricanes have a big, wide path that they hit. We're going to find the community that's highly socially vulnerable, right? They are underemployed, underinsured. It's going to be harder for them to recover economically.
They don't have those reresources.
Yeah, they're going to get a check from the state government or from the federal government that's going to, last like 10 seconds.
Right.
And then the rest of their recovery is on them. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and reduce any cost to recovery that we can. We're going to, make their house whole a little bit. We're going to tarp the roof. Board their windows if they need it, rip out all the bad stuff. We're not going to rebuild the whole thing.
Sure, yeah.
But by doing that, you spend none of the demo money and all of the recovery money, and it makes it go a lot farther.
So, Brian, talk to us about the VEO here. So, a couple of questions are: what are is there kind of requirements or criteria for someone to qualify to at your facility there, and is there a length of stay? Or what are some of the
it can vary.
Boundaries there,
as long as you're a veteran.
Okay.
And then we help make sure that you get those benefits so that you can be self-sustaining. And so it's anyone that comes in, and we get referrals all the time from a variety of different homeless shelters in and around the Atlanta area metro, not just from inside Atlanta, up in Cobb County and Forsyth, where there's someone that needs some help. VEO steps up and takes that role.
And that's your end game or your mission, right? Is to get them back on their feet
right.
and acclimated back to society and productive, and they feel worthwhile. And
it's true, and I think there's a real tie-in here with Team Rubicon, because here you've got these guys in Haiti looking at each other across from a baggage claim area, and there's a sense of unity. There's a sense of pride with who they are and what they're about. The same thing happens with the VEO. You put a homeless veteran in an environment where there are other people that are veterans, and that in itself gives them a sense of pride. It gives them a sense of fellowship.
Mutual understanding.
Mutual understanding. That's exactly right. And it's the kind of thing that in itself, having someone to talk with and be part of something together, the VEO provides that network, and that in itself is priceless.
Okay, so last question here for Joe, and then we got to wrap things up here, and we want to let you all promote a call to action again one more time as we sign off here. But Joe, I know you got a lot of media coverage, right? I was just I'll be watching something, all of a sudden there's a story about Team Rubicon, right?
Yeah, Major League Baseball postseason.
Oh yeah,
yeah, we're all over it. T-Mobile has done an incredible job paying for ad space there.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you retweet the hashtag HR for HR, the number 4, it's home runs for heroes. And a portion of that goes to us. It's great.
Yeah, because that was the thing is just hashtagging, just following it. T-Mobile is stepping up and donating some money. That's so.
Yeah,
so
and this Veterans Day, if you're a big Starbucks fan, go to Starbucks. They have a Veterans Day gift card, and a portion of that goes to 3 different organizations. They split it up. I think it's us and Team Red, White, and Blue, and another organization I can't remember. It's probably the Mission Continues. We're always lumped in together.
Right.
Our founders all started from the same fellowship program.
And that's a shout out locally to Garrett and to Stuart, right?
Yeah. So Garrett Cathcart is the Southeast Director for Team Red, White, and Blue, and Stuart is the Southeast Director for the Mission Continues. Yeah.
We may need to have them in the studio for an upcoming episode. So that's a good call to action. This Veterans Day, go to Starbucks. I'm there about twice a day, right?
Twice each morning, twice in the afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So but you buy the gift card that's clearly there for Veterans Day, right?
Yeah, yeah, wow. It'll say veterans on it.
That's awesome. That's
pretty awesome.
And then, so drop a couple of other names. You got some other big brands that are behind you guys, right?
Oh man, we have a ton of them, and I would be hesitant to actually name drop.
Well, let me drop a couple
without context, and here's why. Okay. I don't want to miss anyone. So you throw some names. I'll
throw some name out there, and then it's my fault if I forget some.
Yeah.
So Home Depot, check.
Yeah, they're a major funder of ours.
Right. Some airlines are help transport you guys, right?
Yep, Southwest Airlines and Airlink.
Yeah, nice. And we mentioned Starbucks, and then PBC. We're doing what we can do. We don't have those kind of deep pockets, whatever. Right?
Yeah, but like you said earlier, you ran a fundraising campaign for us during a specific meeting event that you guys had,
right?
And that's just as impactful. I mean, you don't have to have $1 million. I'll take $5. Yeah. I'll take $1,000. I can run a lot of programs that way.
Because I went to the hurricane in Houston, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, I have a lot more questions. I'm sure Nick does as well. But eventually, we got to get to the holidays here. I got plans for Christmas, so we better wrap it up. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks again. One more time. Your call to action, how people would get involved, website, all that good stuff, Social Security number, credit card, whatever.
That's right.
You want, whatever you want to give out, Brian.
You got to go to veohero.org and just take a look at the site. You'll be inspired. It's really easy to get involved. And donate. We always like to have that because it really does help out defer those costs. So again, veohero.org.
Thanks, Brian. Joe?
Yeah, so I'll do a quick plug for our website, teamrubiconusa.org, and reach out to the Googleverse and find us on there. But I'll also say, in closing for us, looking at the two things that our organizations have in common, and every organization that I've worked with so far that's veteran-led, veteran-based, focused. You guys have all heard of Mr. Rogers telling how his mom said, "Look for the helpers," right? Uh-huh. If you're a little bit scared, a little bit worried, look for the helpers. That's exactly what's happening here, right? Whether you're volunteering, whether you're donating, whether you're spreading the word, any of it. If you find an organization that does something in this world to make people better humans and to help other people be better humans, reach out and help, and that's exactly what we're all doing here, and that's the common thread that binds us together. So,
because people think it takes just these huge, over the top moments or engagements, but it really is that ripple effect, and a lot of times it's the silent, hero that really, when you think back on your life, somebody that stepped up and helped you, it wasn't necessarily an amazing moment, but it was just that small quiet time when somebody said, I heard somebody said, never look down on someone that you're not willing to help up.
The biggest thing that you'll see on our social media and the stories that we like to story yell about, it always starts with, how can I help? And it always ends with a hug. And it's the shortest story you'll ever see, but it's the most impactful. And I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it.
I am, man. I'm chilling up right here. Yeah. Yeah. We've never had anybody cry in the studio, so we're gonna hold
3,
through that. Yeah.
2, 1.
Yeah. Here come the tears. Yeah. All right, guys. Rich Casanova here on behalf of Nick Rodriguez. Great show, Nick. Right? Yes or yes?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
right. Great show. This is a good one. All right. So we'll see you next time on another episode of the Georgia Business Radio Show, and stay tuned for more.
Thank you again for joining Rich Casanova and our guests on the Pro Business Channel. Use the social media links here to share today's show and stay tuned for the next episode of Georgia Business Radio.